Welcome back. 5 of the most powerful research universities in the world are joining forces in a project that is expected to help the Commonwealth attract world-class scientists.
John Goodhue is the executive director of the Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center. Good to have you here, John.
It's good to be here.
John, welcome. I'm going to call it a supercomputing center, just so I can remember it, and it's a mouthful.
Easier to pronounce.
We know that this is a work in progress. Give us what the objective is of this facility when it's completed at the end of the year.
So I think the facility was really born when the 5 universities that are in this project realized that they had a common problem that they really couldn't solve except by working together.
And let's say who those universities are, because we haven't yet.
So that would be MIT, Boston University, Harvard University, Northeastern, and the University of Massachusetts. And we were talking before the show, one of the things that's unusual about this collaboration is both public and private universities working together.
And you know, as you and I mentioned briefly, each of these presidents and university deserves credit, but Susan Hockfield, who sadly for many of us is going to be stepping down, is the first president in my memory at MIT who's reached out into the region. And to bring MIT to Holyoke is staggering, but that's my second question. Why Holyoke?
Good point. So Holyoke really for the business, for the universities was a business decision. There are 2 key ingredients when you're putting up a data center. One, what is the cost of energy? We'll be literally consuming 10 megawatts of energy just for the computers. And the other is, how do you reach it? How can you find high bandwidth communication between the users and the center? As it turns out, Holyoke has the lowest cost of electricity in the state. They have a hydro facility on the Connecticut River, and they are also right next to a fiber loop that gives us very inexpensive, very high bandwidth communication to the facility. So they're really uniquely positioned for this kind of a facility.
All right, a couple of questions. First of all, Holyoke, it's obviously an economically struggling community, has been for some time. What should the expectations be as far as jobs once this center is open there? What kind of an economic impact will it have, really?
So I think the most important part of that question is what's the economic impact? And you know, I think of Holyoke in many ways as similar to, say, the Boston waterfront in 1965 or the South End or Kendall Square maybe in the late 70s. It's a community with tremendous upside and a great future. And I think we think of the center as a catalyst for making that happen. The number of construction jobs right now, today on the ground, is in the hundreds. The number of jobs at the center, quite frankly, will be relatively small. That's the way those centers operate. But we think the impact of this 8-acre development downtown, bringing the educational institutions to the community in partnership with the school system and the community colleges, will have a tremendous impact on the city going forward.
And I interrupted you at the beginning. What exactly is it going to do? I mean, what's the purpose of it? We know it's bringing together 5 universities, but why are they going to use it?
So over the past decade, researchers at these 5 universities have become hugely dependent on computing as really an aid to scientific discovery. If you look at genomics, just as one example, that revolution literally wouldn't have happened without the availability of powerful computers to manage the enormous amounts of data that you generate when you sequence even one gene. And that story repeats itself across physics and chemistry and engineering and so forth. So that the net of that is that computers have literally proliferated across these campuses, and they're in space that's well suited for classrooms and not very well suited for computers. It's both expensive and not very reliable to operate.
Now, if I can briefly follow up on that, we hear so much now about, quote unquote, the cloud. Would this be classified as a little cloud for these 5 universities, or is this different?
That's a really good way of putting it. Think of it as a community cloud. So we have enough critical mass to put a large number of computers in a single place, serving a community of users.
So John, that was, I'm impressed, Mike. But I don't, even though I spent some time in the technology industry, without being nerdy, because I'm incapable of it, here's my framing of computing history. We went from mainframes, big ones, to the mini computer industry, to the PCs, to connecting all of this to handheld devices. Are we repeating history? Is supercomputing and big data needs, are we back to that?
There has been kind of a full circle, and I'm not quite as old as you, but close, and have seen that, have lived that history. And what you're seeing, interestingly, those tiny mobile devices wouldn't exist if you didn't have these huge devices and very large assemblage of computers in the cloud. And on the scientific front, you just can't get the work done unless you have very, very large assemblies. And just to give you a sense for the scale here, this is a facility that will house literally hundreds of thousands of processors.
So again, the key from my ancient history has not simply been about computing power, but it's been about the applications, what we can use this power for. You mentioned, for example, the genome. Give us some other examples of practical uses once this facility is up and running.
Let me maybe give you an industrial example, less of a research example that might help put this into perspective. If you went to an automobile company today, or or Boeing or Airbus, what you would find is what they're using computers for is to literally build virtual prototypes of their vehicles, taking years and billions of dollars off the development cycles. And this notion of doing virtual experiments where you build a model of a physical system instead of trying to build the physical experiment itself means that you can do many more experiments at the same time, and the cost and cycle time for getting your work done gets much, much lower.
We have a little bit of time left. We haven't talked about the cost. I know it's expensive. The state's involved in this and the school's involved in it, right?
Yes. So the schools are contributing about $50 million to this center. The Commonwealth is committing $25 million. Cisco and EMC, our industrial partners, are committing another $5 million. I wanted to mention that it's been actually quite a joy to work with the Patrick administration on an investment where they are seeing the impact 5, 10, 15 years down the road and recognizing the importance of research to the economy.
And very briefly, it's going to be finished by the end of the year because you're in construction now, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You can see the site on our webcam if you go to our website, and we're expecting to have the building done by about the end of November, at which point we start moving computers in.
On time and under budget, I'm sure. John Goodhue, head of the new supercomputing center, thank you very much. And we're going to have you back once it's up and running and we can see the applications.
Because we haven't talked about the green aspect of it, which is a big part of it.
We need another hour for all of that.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Up next on the Business